Okay, we're rolling.
Okay, we're ready. This is an interview at Days Inn, Hicksville, New York. It's the 19th of November, 2003, approximately 3:45 p.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My name is Leon DePaul, born July the 29th, 1923, and from Lakeview, on Long Island here.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
Before I went into service?
Yes.
High school.
Okay. Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Is that you're talking about July on December 7th?
Yes.
It was on a Sunday, naturally, and I was riding in the car. I had the radio on, and that's what I felt. I didn't even know what Pearl Harbor was, or where it was.
Most didn't.
The majority, I suppose,
Yes.
but that was it. That's when I heard it.
Okay. Do you remember if you had any reaction or anything to that?
Well, I thought I was in the right time at the right place because I just going to be graduating from high school, and I figured that's where I'm going to be in a short period of time.
Now, I noticed you said you were working at Grumman.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when did you start working
Okay. Right after high school, I went in Freeport and worked riveting, learned how to rivet for Grumman's, and then they took me in after I had finished the course. And while I was there, it was unbelievable because I was 18 years old, I became an inspector. They wanted me to be an inspector. They come over to me with it. And I couldn't believe it, so it's a long story where everybody else, much older than me, couldn't believe that I became an inspector at the time. I had guys riding in the car that used to come with me. You know, I used to drive to the Grumman's. Anyway, the head inspector for Grumman's come up to me and said, "DePaul, you think you could act and work as an inspector?" I said, "Charlie, just give me a chance. I'll show you." So what happened was, I became an inspector, okay, on a half jigs, and then right after that, not long after that, I was on rolling jigs. Had my own aeroplane that come out of the paint shop. I was working, and they called me all over the place. I had my own secretary that came to me, and I can't believe, and gave me my check. I didn't have to stand in a mile-long line for the crib check to collect and everything was brought to me. When I joined up now, because all my buddies were going and I couldn't see, not going. This is one thing.
Now, you were in a defense industry, so you could have been deferred, correct?
I didn't have to go. I didn't have to go. In fact, Leroy Grumman, Jake Schweibel was the president of Grumman, because we used to have meetings. And I knew all of the big people, and even the commander, the representative from the Navy, which was Commander Rittenhouse. So I didn't have to really go. And that night, because I was on a night shift, when I came in, after going to Pier 92 and signing up and everything, they called me in and gave me, you know what, because I signed up. And they told me, "You don't have to go." I says, "Look, I don't want to walk around and people call me 4F. I'm going to make good money and all that, I know that." I says, "But I don't feel right doing it, not going with my buddies and doing what I feel was right." And they went along with me, that's it.
Now, why did you enlisted then?
Pardon me?
You enlisted.
That's right.
Why did you enlist in the Navy? Why did you pick the Navy?
Because my brother was in the Navy, my cousin was in the Navy, joined up just before me, and a lot of my buddies went in the Navy. So I decided to do that. I wanted to do that. I didn't want to be in a foxhole, number one. I want to live in a cot or whatever it was, a bunk or whatever, and if I have to go down, I'll be in the water, not in mud, okay? That's why.
Okay. Where did you go for your training?
I went to boot camp in Newport, Rhode Island. And they knew that I worked for Grumman's, So when I finished the course there, finished the program there, they called me in and said, DePaul, being that you work for Grum, you know about airplanes, you were an inspector, we'd like you to go to Naval Aviation Mech School and continue in the air part of the Navy, which I did. So they sent me to Memphis, Tennessee, to Aviation Mech School. Now you ask me, how did I get to fly? Is that the next question?
Yes.
Okay. We graduated, and our group was called up, and we all lined up. These are all different groups, and they asked for volunteers because the guys that would say you, and you you're going to be aerial gunners. They were shooting everything but the sleeve. That was mostly, they didn't want to fly, so they were shooting everything but what they would. So they asked for volunteers, and here we go again. So I volunteered, and take one step forward, and you're in the Air Corps. So a lot of my buddies, I went boost camp, and we all stepped forward, and I ended up with a lot of them through my whole Navy career, through the whole war, in this squadron.
Now, the type of aircraft you went to, was that the type of aircraft you trained on at mech school?
No, this was just mechanical. So what I'm going into now is to become a flight engineer. What I had to do was, after I graduated from there, I went into radar school. Of course, I would have went to a ship somewhere, but being that I was in the Air Corps and I volunteered, I ended up going to radar school, then to Pensacola Naval Air Station in Gulf Beach for aerial gunnery school, for turret school, and then from there into a squadron.
Okay, now what kind of planes did you train on?
Well, that's a picture of one of them there. I'll show later. We'll show later. I didn't train on anything. I went right into the airplane I was going to fly in and become a flight engineer, which I was trained by the crew, the plane captain, which was the head of the crew. So I went in, Boca Chica Naval Air Station, Key West, right after going to Gulf Beach, and I stayed in that squadron through the whole, right through the end, right till the end, in Key West. There I met Hemingway. He had parties for the guys. We were after submarine because they were sinking a tremendous amount of shipping along the East Coast here, all the way down to South America, and a lot in the Caribbean area, and that's why we patrolled, most of our patrol was in the Caribbean area. Grand Cayman Islands, I hear that's a great place today. They got beautiful hotels and all. It was nothing but mosquitoes and jungle and dirt roads and houses on top of stilts. I could have bought a property there for probably $100 for an acre or something like that. And we used to swim on a Sunset Beach, which I'm sure there's all, that's where all the hotels are. It was a big, long beach. That's where we used to swim nude. There ain't nobody going to watch us. And we went to the Bahamas. We used to went to Guantanamo Bay. Went to Grand Cayman Islands, as I said, and there was a ship where I seen the biggest, that was recorded as the biggest shark that was ever caught in on the Christina, which was a seaplane tender in one of the islands in the Caribbean area. So what we did was, I don't know which was worse, the smoke that from the smudge pots in the shacks there, or the mosquitoes, because smoke was supposed to drive the mosquitoes away. I can't believe, you know, what I heard about Grand Cayman and what I seen then. So that's a story in that area at that time.
Now, what type of plane were you on?
Okay, it's a Martin ship airplane. Has a 100. At that time, it was a big airplane, flying boat, no wheels. It was a flying boat. It had a 118-foot wingspan. It had a galley, which had a table and benches in aluminum, refrigerator, stove, and everything that you needed. We used to have toast and coffee, the flight rations. The cooks hated our guts because every time we went down for flight ration, because we'd be flying for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours. So we had to have enough food at a time for 13 men. Now, 13-man crew had to be a big airplane, am I right? Mm-hmm. It had a head, which was a pot, and a P-tube that was like a funnel, and if you went up and down, the thing spread all over you, you know. It was one of those deals, and laughed like crazy. You tried not to have to go do that. But it had bow turret, ball turret, twin 50s. Crown turret was my fighting position, was on the top of the airplane, twin 50s, and the tail turret was twin 50s, and then each waist hatch in the back of the airplane where these big doors opened up, you rigged up a 50 caliber in each one, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8 machine guns in that. The flight deck, there was a pilot, co-pilot. Right behind the first pilot was the radar men, and right next on that whole wall, tremendous amount of radio gear. And right across the way from the radio gear on the flight deck was a navigator's table, and my position was at the end with all the controls and all the panels for the 2 engines, was the flight engineer's seat. So the rest of the crew, if you won, you had 4 bunks that you could sleep in if you weren't on duty. But there was 13 men on board the airplane.
Now, was that the airplane they called the Catalina?
Pardon me?
Was that called the Catalina by any chance?
No, that was the PBY, wasn't it?
That's the PBY. That's why I get mad, because, and the PBY was a beautiful airplane, boys. Let me tell you something. It really, really was. But it didn't compare. This was gigantic, this airplane, compared to where they couldn't land if the swells were over 6 foot or something like that. Of course, that's another thing. Dumbo, we used to land in the middle of the ocean, pick up, sometimes it was 10 or 15 people, maybe more. It's all according to how many survivors were in it. Land, take them aboard, take off, okay? And being that we had a tremendous hull, high hull. And they was awful small compared to us, so they couldn't land, and we would take over the
Now, you
stuff.
said, now the PBY was an amphibious, right? Didn't they have
That's
wheels?
right, I'd have wheels.
And you didn't.
No,
you said you didn't.
but it ended after the war. They put big wheels. I can't believe it on this thing. But go ahead. No.
Can I ask you one thing now? With Ernest Hemingway, you attended parties with him?
Yeah, he liked fly boys, and he liked the submarine boys. There was a submarine base there too, and we used to fly when we went to Havana. When we went to Guantanamo and landed there for something, getting something, we would take him because he liked Havana. He had a place in there. He loved
so
this place.
he flew in your plane with you?
Oh yeah.
What was he like? What was your impression of him?
And you had to be an impression. I talk to my grandchildren. I say, you go. My grandchildren now, I tell them, you go tell your teacher your grandfather knew and drank with Ernest Hemingway. Really, Grandpa? I said, that's right. He had a hound down there, and we used to call his place the Snake Ranch. Why? Don't ask me. I can't remember why we called it the Snake Ranch.
Now, this was in Florida?
In Key West.
Key West.
He had a home in Key West. Sloppy Joe's is where he used to hang out.
Okay. All right, so your duty basically in the Caribbean area was
Submarine.
And submarine.
That's
and
right.
a submarine.
Yes. And they were held together by baling wire. They were so beat up. And this is the difference. In them, they were painted white. Pure white. The whole thing, why, I don't know. Because I didn't know any difference. I come in the squadron, and in the bow was no turret there. There was a machine gun with bungee cord holding the machine gun up. And when the plane went up to the machine gun, they had one in the tail, and only one, which is on a bracket, which I cut my back on when we went down off the coast of Cuba when both engines cut out, and mounted on the side of the waste hatch that never was used. That's what they had. So when we get to the new ones, when we went overseas, that's good too. Something to say. But that was something we used to buy boots. Did you ever hear of Pappy Boyington?
Yes.
You know, black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were almost as bad as him because we were like a family. 200 and some guys. That's including the non-flyers that were in the squad. We knew their wives. We knew their, children if they had children, whatever it was. We knew each other like family, and we lived, fought together and everything. And all the time we were in the States. Until we got to San Francisco, starting to go over, that's when we started to lose men. That I can get to too. Mm-hmm. So that area covered then was a real interesting thing for me as a teenager, and what I did after that. Was there anything else?
Well, I guess.
Keep going.
You want me to just keep going?
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Now was there about 8 months. And we're never going to get out of here. We've been here training new people coming in, so forth and so on. We want to get and do something. We're not doing nothing here, We may have seen a couple of submarines, but we never really come in contact with any of them. Even all the stupid flying we did down there, the worst flying we ever did was in the Yucatan Channel. That was off of Mexico, and that was the worst place to fly in all the world. And that was from here to Tokyo. That was real bad weather. They painted the ship one day, all white, all freshly painted. We get in, and we take off, and we're patrolling all night long the Yucatan Channel. Okay, we got a million power kilowatt searchlight, something new, under one wing. And you turn that lights up the whole ocean, forget about it. Anyway, we flying through this storm. Half the guys got sick. One guy's laying on his back on the flight deck, throwing up all over. He didn't care. And it was so bad that there was another airplane in that area that night, and we come so close to hitting him, we hit his prop wash. So we must have come right behind him. When we got back to Key West and landed, we crawl out of the airplane. How we get back? You taxi up to the ramp. There's a big bulldozer waiting to pull you ashore. What do you call it? Beach and crew swim out with these big wheels with tanks on to make them float, and they're pushing them out, floating up, and we're standing there. When they come up and bring them there, we push down and hook it up and snap it onto the side, on both sides. Two guys on one side, two guys on the other. Okay. Then the guy swims out and he's bringing a line from the tractor to the tail section. Hook it up, and the wheels. The wheel that he control back and forth. The tractor starts pulling and pulls us up the ramp. The guy's guiding it up and parks the airplane. Okay, that's how we beached the thing. Now that's a tricky thing, because if you got wind coming from one way, that pilot's got to manipulate that airplane around so the back swings around and they catch it just at the right time. Okay, either that or forget it. Anyway, so that's how we beached or landed the airplane, or brought it ashore rather. And what else now?
Now you said you went down. Was that while you were in the Caribbean?
Oh yeah. I tell you, I wouldn't be talking to you guys, I swear to God, right now, only because, I don't know why, because, and there's other things that happen to me. We take off from Grand Cayman. They had where we gassed up, they had a big tank thing floating in the water and a pump to pump it on. Okay, this thing was like on an angle. It just didn't look right to us. We take off this one time about 0600 in the morning. Take off, I'll never forget it. Tippet, the radio men start frying eggs, and so we get up to about 3,000 or 4,000 feet, and both engines cut out. Both engines cut out. Now I just got in the squadron. I'm saying this is pretty bad, I think, you know. So Tippet is pulling on me to sit down on the deck. It wouldn't hurt so much. And this is a guy who's been flying long before me. So I want to know what's going on. So I pick up the phone. I hear, try different RPMs, this, that, and so forth, so on. Try it, whatever. And I'm saying to myself, never mind trying anything. Get it on the water and then find out what's going on. This is the way I felt, you know, as a kid that just flying. I said, it's going to happen all of a sudden. No, get down and then let's check it. No, the engines start to cut in again. Now, they checked all different RPMs and different manifold pressures and all that stuff, and they said, oh, we're going to continue to patrol. I said, oh, geez, here we go. If that happened, something else is going to happen while we're going. Something caused that, and just maybe it's going to happen again. Sure as heck, 5 or 6 hours later, I'm on the radar, and I pick up land, and I said, pilot from radarman, I says, I'm picking up land dead ahead. He says, yes. He says, that's Cuba. He says, we're going over Cuba to head for Key West for the base. I look out the porthole, I look down, I see the beach go by, right? And I turn back and I sit back, and the engine's cut out. Now we're over jungle. Okay? He's got to get back. We got no power. He's got to get back to the water. I don't know how far the water is back there. It's got to be pretty far because he turns that thing around, and we had to all get in different ways. Everybody was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I ended up being, I was the last in the waist hatch. This is a big area in the back of the airplane. And they're all sitting there. Now the drift sight is sticking through the deck. That's where they can take a drift. The navigator can take a drift to see how much drift is going on with the airplane, to see that he's on his mark wherever he's going to go in navigating. Mm-hmm. It's a big thing that goes all down through. I look over there, the guys are sitting holding on, and I close the hatch, the last one to get in, and I said, there's a drift sight. I pull the thing out and I throw it down. Look down. Now you see. Now you can look right down through the ship. There's a hole in the bottom of the ship. The guy's saying, "For God's sake, put the cover on." I says, "Where's the cover?" Because this thing was so falling apart. The bonding wire busted and the cover is laying around here someplace, right? In the meantime, this thing is going down. Somebody throws it to me the last minute. I put the cover on, screw it down, and I sit down and we hit. As soon as I sat down, we hit, but we still had airspeed. But thank God we were over the water. It just made the beach. What we hit was the surf coming in. That's how close it was, okay? That wasn't so bad. The second time we hit, we went up like an elevator. This is the feeling. What the hell, I never, you know. We went straight up and we're saying, stop, 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 don't go to, and we go straight down. Well, we hit, it felt like my backside went through the decking because it's all corrugated, had corrugating decking because it was aluminum, but heavy aluminum, but made it corrugated so that it was strong and yet light enough. You know what I'm saying? So the ammunition box where I landed cut into my side where the machine gun was braced against it. We hit, and when we come down that second time, we stayed down, but we were all right. Everything was all right. The valve turret guns bent around, come through the plexiglass, a few things like that, but nothing real bad. And
how bad were you hurt?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just a cut, a gash. Mm-hmm. They said Shorty, we call him Peanuts, was on the radio, sending out the SOS. It wasn't before half an hour before we had coverage. One of our planes were covering over us, okay? And they sent a Coast Guard to tow us to Lakeview, Cuba, which was 60 miles away. Now, they send an engineer from Martin to check over the airplane. I say to myself, send another airplane, take us back, leave the stupid thing here, and that's it. Then we don't have to worry. Do you know, he checked it over and he said it was all right. It was water in the fuel that cut out the engine. Okay. And I'm saying, here we go again. When we took off, we went up sideways. We took off sideways up, and I said, oh God. Now that's just that's the part in the Caribbean area, I got to say. Then comes the new ships. Then came, the skipper says, well boys, we're ready to go overseas now. We're going to get our new airplanes in Norfolk and we're heading for the Pacific. Right! We're all yelling, get out of here. Now we disbanded, another squadron come over, took our place. We took off, we flew all our own ships that we were issued to, and to Norfolk. All the white junky things. You should see these ships we picked out, what we got. More firepower. I mean, his turrets were beautiful, gorgeous. Had electric gun sights on it. No more just what it calls the electric that reflected. So if you're shooting up with the sun, it protects you and you can continue on the target. We had more armament, more bigger engines. The whole bit, everything was beautiful. Now this is the part I liked. 3 of us had to check out how to fly this thing. I flew that thing. I don't know how many hours in that thing because I wanted to fly this thing. Then they let me because they were tired of flying. One guy come on, the other guy at least he could rack while I'm with the other pilot, you know. So he's watching me. Anyway, I got a lot of stick time. Anyway, I was one of the ones that were chosen to land this thing. I had to land it. 1 of 3. Because if the pilots got killed, who's going to bring this thing down? You know, and they got to land this thing, right? Well, I did. And what happened was 3 guys come in for flight time, so they come in with their parachutes and wanted to ride with us, you know, for training. Get their time in, okay, to get their pay. So I called up the PPC and I said, Mr. Casey, he's got 3 guys that want to come. He said, yeah, let them in. So after I landed this thing, they were sitting back there with their parachutes. I run back, well, what do you say, boy? How'd you like that one? What do you mean? How do we like it? It was beautiful. I landed this. You gotta be kidding. If I knew you were flying this thing, I would have jumped on. We had good time. So that was that. We picked up our airplanes. We got 2 weeks off to come home while they got the planes set up and everything. 13 planes, and then we come back and we had to fly this thing all the way out to the Pacific. Now what we did was we took off at 3 at a time, from Norfolk to Eagle Mountain Lake, Texas. That's where we landed, in Eagle Mountain Lake, Fort Worth, Texas. And it was something to go over there knowing you don't have no wheels. And you look down for any Sea Lake or something. If an engine cuts out, forget about it, you had it. We land there. Next day we take off San Diego Naval Air Station, Marine Naval Air Station. Stayed overnight, and then we went up the coast to Alameda Naval Air Station, San Francisco. Stayed there for a couple of months, training and all that, and then headed out to Pacific.
Now with your planes, did you ever name them or decorate them like the Army Air Force
No,
did?
that's the one thing we didn't. The only thing I did on-site paint, I painted a big white Dumbo, you know, the flying elephant, on the front, right under the bow turret. And I burnt my legs in the sun, but not realizing that, because we cut our pants down into shorts, right? Not realizing that we had, I was in the sun, and I was laid up for a week, then couldn't fly. Anything else?
No, I'm curious about that. What kind of, what did you wear while you were up in flight?
Oh, this is, when we went to, we flew from Hawaii, San Francisco, Alameda, to Kaneohe Naval Air Station is where we landed. The FBI checked us out. That one you see where the Chinese flag is on there, that opens up and there's Chinese writing underneath it in white and black Chinese writing. And on the bottom of that thing, this is what we wore like the Flying Tigers did on the back of our jacket, if you ever seen them on television.
Yeah.
Well, we wore the same thing on our flight jackets with the album, with the Seal of China. I had to have the Seal of China on the bottom with a number. That number referred to me and was sent to Washington in case I went down in China. Okay? So that was that. And goggles, beautiful sunglasses, flight sunglasses, summer flight jacket, steel, when they had the steel helmet, I'm going to go hunting, I'm going to fight somebody in the Japs in this jungle, and flak jackets, I'm going to go bombing, we're going to bomb ships. Flak jackets, and the thing that got me right was the survival kit and survival book, that what you can eat, you know, grubs and all this other, all kinds of crap that you can eat if you're on the jump. But they also had 38s, they gave us shoulder holsters, which that's big shots, we made them into fancy, went down to the parachute loft and had the guys make us up the fancy stuff with the tie around your leg, you know. We're crazy. Anyway, so that and a mirror with an X on it, and you held it up if you were in a raft or something, and you wanted a signal, you know, you had to carry that thing, and a long knife, machete for jungle. That's what we were issued. And they told us that during when they were bombed by the Japanese, a lot of damage was made by our own ammunition that shot up at them, didn't blow up, and came down and landed in town and stuff like that. And I talked to a couple of sailors, and they were telling me that somebody had to know what was going on, because when we were practicing with our torpedoes, there was the Japs were out there with in their fishing, you know, boats, picking up the torpedoes. Now this is just a swabby, and he knew about what was going on. So that's that. Then we took off and we went to Johnson Islands, landed, refueled, Kwajalein, and then Saipan. And the Saipan action just ended. But there were still Japanese up in the jungle there. Now, we buoyed in the bay. They wouldn't let us ashore yet because it wasn't over yet. And what happened was they told us, do not. Well, they left 3 guys, and 3 of us sailors were aboard the airplane, and 1 officer. Thompson submachine gun, which we were issued each airplane, a Veris pistol, a signal, big light lamp to signal, and whenever you were challenged, you better have the right answer, or they would just blow up the airplane. Because what happened was the Japs would come swimming under boxes and stuff like that, throw hand grenades into the airplane, blow it up, or if the guys were sleeping, they would crawl through, get in through the waist hatch, crawl up and kill everybody aboard. And there was a lot of that going on, so everything had to be closed up, locked down, the whole bit, and picket boats would come along, challenge you, and you better have the right answer. And that was that. And we stayed aboard on the shore in tents. Am I talking too long?
No.
Sure?
Yep.
I got more.
Well, that's what we want to hear the rest of it.
Okay. You want to the end, right?
You ended up at Iwo Jima in Okinawa. Could you tell us about that?
That's right. Well, Iwo Jima wasn't too bad because there was no suicide planes, and we were still quite a ways away from Japan. Okay.
What kind of duty did you do there?
Well, it was patrolling sections, like we did in Okinawa, but this was, you know, wasn't too bad. We were looking for subs, checking on, each one of us had a section, so we covered a big, tremendous area, so that we would find if the Japanese fleet would come in, we could warn them. So we were like a sentry to make sure that nobody got in, no submarines, so forth and so on. Or if there was anybody shot down, any flies shot down, we would go down and pick them up. That was our deal there. It got worse as when we went to Okinawa. Okay, that was it. It wasn't too much there. So when the Okinawa campaign came, we had already cracked our airplane up, taken off. So we had no airplane. We had to use other airplanes when we had to go out on a mission.
What happened? How did your plane
Oh, okay.
get cracked
That's
up?
another thing. We're taking off. We're always overweight. Bombs, gas, because we'd have to fly all night long. So it's usually like a tremendous amount of gas. And then we had either two 500-pounders in each bomb bay, because the bomb bays were underneath each wing, right where the engine nacelles closed up, which you'll see, I can show you on that airplane. Anyway, two 500-pounders on each side, and or 1,000-pound on each side, okay? Or I don't know how many Torpex or depth charges on each one. I think there was 8 or 4 in each side, I'm not sure. But what happened was we tried to take off in the rough water, overweight, and we kept coming down, pounding, coming down, going back, taking off. And the last time, you know, you can get your ear to every tune. When you're listening to the engines, that's all we do. And that's why I don't have my hearing aids now, because I went to the VA yesterday. I had to send them away because they're not working. Anyway, those engines were banging. You have to yell to each other. Any place, if you're outside the flight deck. The flight deck was insulated, everything. Right between the two engines, you could talk the way we're talking. Any place in the ship was all bare metal. You yelled. You had to yell to each other. You could see the control cables running through for the rudders and all that other stuff, right? Where we're going. So when we took off for this one time, we bounced so hard, I heard something. I was only the only one. There's other things I tell you. I think I saved this crew, I don't know how many times, I swear to God. I heard something, and he's ready to take off again. I get on the phone, I happen to be in a box. Mr. Casey, I said, I heard something. You better not, let's go check something. I said, I don't like what I heard. He said, what'd you hear? I said, you should come back. Do me a favor, come back and check, because I heard something was not right. The other guys, nobody said anything. He comes back, we crawl up, and we go out the top there, and we crawl along, we go forward. Right behind the radar tower housing, which is that thing up on the top of the airplane, a tremendous crack was going across this outside. I said, look at this. He said, I heard this damn thing's going to fall apart. This ain't going to take that. He said, oh shit, we got to cancel. And it was the only time we canceled our mission. And there was always a relief crew to go, waiting on standby to go, okay? So there was always somebody out there. So we lost that airplane. Now, what happened was, when we went into, this is something else that nobody knows, okay? I don't care who it is, but our squadron, and I think there was 5 or 6 other squadrons, were all together, and we went to an island called, I don't know, did you ever hear Karamoretta?
No.
That's a group of islands right off, 11 miles off of Okinawa, okay? All the seaplane tenders, we had to go because the airplanes were flown in later. We had to go with the ships because we had no airplane. Our crew. These old seaplane tenders. They pulled into these islands, destroyers and the Marines went ashore. There's all very tiny islands. Went on, cleaned up from Japs, cleaned the Japs up, okay? And we were, you know how far from Saipan that was? I never even realized it. 400 miles. That's like, you want to go to Atlantic City? You know. And we're there, sitting there all by ourselves, all us guys, setting up a base for our seaplanes. That's what we were there. A week before the invasion. The invasion was April the 1st, April Fool's Day. That's when the invasion went in. That's when all the tremendous fleets were coming in from all over the place to get on this island, okay? And we're sitting there, a bunch of little crappy seaplane sitting there, and Tokyo Rose named every seaplane, every ship in the harbor, but the one that we stayed on, which was the Hamlin. The Hamlin was supposed to have been sunk at Iwo Jima, just before that. So she didn't name this, but she named everyone. When we pulled in there, we expected all hell to break loose right off the bat because, I mean, we're, you know, a lousy little group. What the hell? Maybe they didn't figure we were worth it to even try. We were to wait for the main one, right? I hope that was the way it was. All I know is that we're sitting there 400 miles away from Japan in these little tiny islands, and our airplanes fly in, and then we buoy them out along the way there. And once we got them all set, we were all waiting. That night, GQ sounds, and I don't know what that was called. They had this onboard ship. It's a bang, 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 all hands, man, your battle stations. Oh, geez, here we go. And then that went on until now. The worst part what we had was that we got up and we had to get dressed. Listen to this. And they had just a squadron in our room. We had to get up and get dressed and stand up by the bunks. Now the loudspeaker saying, bogeys, 50 miles away, coming in. Bogeys, 45 miles coming in. I said, oh boys, here we go, boys, this is it. Suicide planes coming in, okay? Smoke boats make smoke. They had boats, rearming barges out in the bay, making smoke to close in the whole harbor, to try to hide all the, what it called. But you couldn't do that because the mast was sticking out of the stupid smoke, you know? So what happened was they come in, and when the guns started to go off, you couldn't and we're down and locked up because everything is battened down. You couldn't go nowhere. You stayed where you were. And all of a sudden, a tremendous explosion, and this is a big, big ship. I mean, big ship. And it lifted out of the water and come down. We looked at each other, was going to say goodbye to each other because the thing seen us the last minute, and he tried to come down and dive into him, but couldn't turn fast enough, right? Then now I'm seeing this stuff. Ammunition ship get hit. Those poor guys put way away from the other ships, all by themselves, and they have to look after themselves. Only because if they get hit, they'll take 2 or 3 other ships with them. Okay, so they put them all by themselves. This guy comes in, and I have to be going from the airplane on the rearming barge back to the ship for breakfast. We're looking at this thing coming down. It's coming down. And all the guns are shooting shrapnel's coming down like rain. One lousy airplane comes out and he gets hit. He's in flame. Oh, yeah, right there. No. He kept this thing coming in. And I seen the traces going off the deck. I got heart sick. When he hit, we all dove for the deck and that thing blew. Forget about it. That was the start of a war. As a kid, okay? Now I'm starting to see things. I go aboard because we have to, somebody has to go aboard these things, the ammunition ships, to order bombs. And everybody has a chance to go there. Oh, chance, yeah, shit. I didn't want to go nowhere near it. So my turn came and I had to go aboard this thing. And these guys are walking around with towels, taking showers, towels around them with clog hoppers on, we call clog hoppers on. And I walk up to one of the guys, and I look down in the hole. I look down in this thing, and as far as I could see was 1,000-pounders, 500s, incendiaries, torpedoes, everything, all the way up to that's bombs and unbelievable amount of ammunition. And I'm talking to the guy. He says, "How the hell can you sleep or walk around like you're walking around with a towel wrapped around you?" He says, "What do you want me to, what do you want me to do?" And be so at ease. He says, "What do you do?" He says, "I fly." He says, "So what are you talking about? You're up 10,000 feet. You're with a high-octane gasoline. You got guys shooting at you. You get hit. You got to come down 10,000 feet. If you don't blow up 10,000 feet up there, I'd rather be here and jump overboard if it's possible," he said. I started to think. I said, "You know something? The son of a gun is right." So that was that. And our patrolling. I got the 2 medals for going on so many missions. And our missions, well, we used to go out along the all the way to Japan, right in their backyard, front yard, go around, go all the way along the China coast to Korea, and then back, looking for shipping, looking for anything that we could blow. We used to bomb Shanghai just to annoy them and keep them awake. We'd offset the engines so that they wouldn't synchronize, so it sound like more airplanes coming than there is. We did all that stuff. We weren't attacked. We were attacked a couple of times, but not much. Why? We were fortunate because they wanted to use every airplane they could get a hold. Anything that flew, they wanted as suicide planes, so they didn't bother us that much. We had to go after them. And we did. We shot quite a few of them down by the height, going after them while they're flying down there, and just happened to run over them.
Now you said you were in the Tokyo Bay before the signing. How did that happen?
Right, okay. We heard about a bomb that was set off. What? And we didn't know, what could be a bomb? A bomb is a bomb. Then finally it was an atomic bomb. Oh yeah? What's an atomic bomb? We didn't know what it was. And we find out that this reason was so tremendous that they wiped out a whole city, thousands of people. It's holy God. So we heard they were sending the Japanese a white plane with green crosses to come to Okinawa to talk to the big shots there, all the admirals or whatever the big shots were there, to discuss surrender terms, which they did. We seen a thing fly in one day, a couple of days after that, and then that they were going to surrender. And when we heard that they were going to be at September the 2nd, we had to fly our squadron in, and there was other squadrons and actually a lot of other planes, but they didn't have any aircraft carriers in there because they worried about them pulling another Pearl Harbor, and they almost did. If you've seen that movie on television, the young guys wanted to they was even ready to kill the Emperor to get them aggravated to go after us. So they squashed that. They squashed these young guys, and it didn't happen. So that letter there was given to everybody that was there before the signing of the peace. When the signing of the peace came, you know what it was felt like? A ton of bricks off your back, that you didn't have to worry about getting killed. That you could fly in, there was no problem from now on going home, which you did. That's it.
No. So when did you go home?
I got home, I went, I flew with another crew to Hawaii in one of the airplanes that was going back, and I took a carrier, Ticonderoga, from Pearl Harbor to San Francisco. From San Francisco, stayed in Alameda Naval Air Station for about a week or two, and the thing that got me home pretty soon was the medals that I got. And I got home January 1945. I stayed at Pier 92, stayed there at night. I didn't stay there, I just checked in, I'll come home. Was January of 1945. And I got discharged.
Must have been
at
46.
46.
Huh?
46.
46.
Yeah.
Right, because I was in 3.5 years. Lido Beach, I got discharged. And they called me sir. I was a second-class flight engineer. I said, you know what you can do with sir? Sir, I want to get out. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. So, then I could have went down to Grumman's back. They wanted me back, and I never went back.
Did you ever use the GI Bill?
Pardon me?
Did you use the GI Bill at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. At the 5220,
Yep.
I had that. That's about all I did. I was going to go to college, but I didn't. I went and got into dental. As a dental laboratory, I owned 2 dental laboratories at the time, after learning all about making false teeth and all that, you know. Then I married a beautiful girl, Mel, right? Millie Salzone from Rockville Center, had 2 beautiful daughters, one dark hair, the other blonde, and I got 4 grandchildren, beautiful grandchildren, and now I just want to read something here. No, I just want to read this here. And I say, the days are going fast for me now, and I will never forget my squadron shipmates I went to war with. We saw the first hand the damage inflicted by air and naval might, and thank God it was finally over. Love you all, Leon DePaul.
Okay, well, how about showing us that?
And this is the airplane. This is in commemorator on the wing of this airplane, and this was us in Phoenix. There's about 6 of us. There's, out of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's all the pilots are gone. There's only 3 of us left now in the crew.
So you stayed in contact with the crew.
Did what?
You have stayed in contact with some members.
Oh yes, we had reunions.
Okay.
I don't think this is the last one was in Phoenix, because now we got.
Now, what year was that?
Oh God.
Well, that's okay.
I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
that's okay.
But this is the aeroplane.
Okay, and let me just help you with that.
This here,
You focus on that.
these are the 2 medals I got.
No, what are they?
That's a Distinguished Flying Cross, and this is the Air Medal with 2 gold stars. These are my wings. This one I had made up fancy when I got back from overseas, and this is my regular wings I got. This I got from gunnery and gunnery school in Pensacola Naval Air Station. These are my rates. This is my second rate. This is the flag that we wore on the back of our flight jacket. This is the flag of China in those days, and it opens up, and all Chinese writing is in here, and on the bottom of it is the seal of China, my number, and my name that went to Washington, D.C. This is what I got from being in Tokyo Bay before the signing of the peace. It has Mount Fujiyama, Tokyo Bay here. I was sent to my mother, and the stamp here is Tokyo. This is worth a few dollars. Stamp here was September the 2nd at 19:45 a.m. That's the day of the surrender. And this is our crew, and this is the badge I wore as an aerial gunner. And this is the ship with the crew I flew with. And
Now, you told me who put this together for you?
Huh?
Who put this together?
Yeah, my wife gave it to me for Christmas. I loved her. She's something else. And she had to wash that because she says, you can't take that, that's dirty. So that's it, fellas.
Okay, well, thank you very much
Yes,
for your
thank you.
interview.